real game in town, which is self-mastery.
Entrepreneur, speaker, author, and adventurer, Peter Sage.
As a business person, I don't have time for fluff. For me, I'm interested in results and
everything. It resonated so much with me. I'm like, who's this guy?
He is so humble and real and pure.
And the person that I was, I didn't love her.
I knew I needed to do something.
But me, I love now.
Thank you, Peter. You gave me my life back.
But what if someone tells you that if you go through that door, there is another world out there?
And once you walk through that door, you're not turning around.
it's changed my life. It's changed my family's life. It's changed my kids' lives.
I have the power to change that story.
I was always trying to achieve things and to not make a mistake.
He gave so many answers.
This is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Have you ever searched for clarity or passion or focus, but found yourself grappling with an inner resistance that prevents you from creating the life you know you want? Now, if so, I've made a powerful documentary to be able to help you and the people you love rise above life's toughest challenges and experience profound breakthroughs. Just imagine for a second the possibility of a life with more richness, more abundance, more inner peace, and certainly more joy. Now, if that sounds like something you'd like, but just don't know how, then you're in the right place, because you're about to find out this isn't just possible, but it's closer than you think. This journey you're about to take spans multiple countries with people from all walks of life, from business titans to stay-at-home parents, all of whom experienced remarkable transformations through a program called the Elite Mentorship Forum, a scientifically based system designed to empower anyone, anywhere. Now, as these stories unfold, I invite you to look for the one that resonates most with you. See if you can spot the common threads as we peel back the curtain and uncover a blueprint that'll accelerate your path to a life that you want and deserve. A life of fulfillment that's not just imagined, but actually lived, making this probably the most impactful documentary that you'll have seen all year. Are you ready to transform? Let's begin.
The changes were almost instantaneous. This is how the world really works.
I've been able to get out of my own way. I've been able to open doors that I didn't think were possible.
All of a sudden, everything fell in place. You know, that moment that happens, like, where did that came from? How did you do it?
These last 6 months, I have increased my time I'm working, so therefore increased my income.
It was by coincidence. I stumbled over one of his videos in Instagram. It has been in a time where my life was shaken in a very badly way. It was a period full of despair.
I can honestly say at this point in my life, I live a life of joy. I'm at a place today where I will cry from gratitude at the fact that I'm still here. And a large portion of that has to do with doing this program.
This year, my company will have generated over $1 million in revenue.
I think the worst kind of pain somebody could feel is not so much physical pain. There's a lot of ways to be able to deal or manage with that, but it's the psychological pain. So many people are feeling stuck. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling stressed. They're feeling anxious. They're feeling constantly on edge. And the challenge is a lot of people tend to normalize that now. They've forgotten what it's like to actually have a life where you breathe in joy and freedom as your natural state. And a lot of people are familiar with the difference between symptoms and causes. And if you're feeling stuck or anxious or depressed or always on the go, or that there's never enough hours in the day, a lot of the time people try to deal with that, but what they're really dealing with is symptoms, because the root cause to that, the biggest pain that, having worked with people for many decades now, what it really boils down to has its genesis in meaningless. In other words, do I matter? Am I getting up doing this thing every day, whether it's work or business or looking after the family or doing something, for what? What's actually going to matter? And those feelings that come up inside, they're warning signs on the dashboard. It's like, why am I here? What is it all for? What am I going to get to the end of my life and actually look back on and think, wow, that was a movie I would star in again? Or am I going to think, what was the point? If you're feeling any of those symptoms, usually that manifest in anxiousness, frustration, feeling stuck, routine, without fulfillment, then that's a pretty sure sign that life has kind of lost its way, lost its meaning. And that's a really sure sign that you're going to get to the end of the game and wonder what happened.
I have been in a prison since I was 12 years old.
There's always a disturbance somewhere.
I had a child and I almost died during childbirth.
I lost my husband 2 years ago.
She took away my kids from me and from my mother. And, that was a very, very dark moment. It led to a place where we found out she had stage 4 cancer. And by July, 7 months later, I lost my mom.
There's always this certain moment that you hit rock bottom. You don't know where to go from here, or something happened and you ask yourself, is this it?
Yeah.
Same bed, same house, same life.
Before doing EMF, my wife actually sat down with me and said that she thought about splitting it with me. And
I was in divorce proceedings, fighting for custody of my kids. I was mentally and physically and emotionally drained.
I lost my health. I lost my ability to work and income. In the next few months, my peer group shifted. I lost a lot of the people in my life. And I fell into a fairly deep depression, and I was in a big grief spiral. I'd say for over a year, I was trapped in a tornado of physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain. The universe provided what I needed, and that was Peter Sage.
So how did I discover the formula that goes into making the Elite Mentorship Forum so powerful? Well, it didn't happen after I arrived. I had to battle test through this from being at some of my lowest ever points. And that included being hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, being stressed out of my mind. In my 20s, I was working so hard to try to prove to the world I was good enough just to get over the insecurities as a young man that I was scared that I wasn't. Having dropped out of school at 16 with no formal qualifications, I felt a failure right out of the gate. I know what it's like not to be able to afford to pay the rent, panicking if I could afford dog food for the kids, kids being the four-legged kids, and really just having faith in trying something and seeing if it'll work, knowing that following the traditional route, traditional education, traditional certificates on the wall wasn't cutting it. Didn't cut it for my friends at school, certainly wasn't cutting it for me. So there has to be a better way.
But Peter, I was introduced to him just over a year ago when I was in a really, really bad place. Sorry.
No, please, it's okay.
I lost my husband 2 years ago. It happened very suddenly. The following year, I went straight to work, and we didn't have kids, so it's just me, and I was just alone. You need to start doing some of the work that you can't just hide behind your grief. I started putting the work in, here, and things started changing in my outer world.
And have a relationship that's based upon unconditional love rather than trying to fill a gap inside because you're lonely or upset or feel somebody else will be the answer to your problems. How do you do that? you understand that the number one law when it comes to relationships is and always has been that nobody can ever love you more than you love yourself. So why do so many people struggle to transform? Why do so many people who commit to wanting to improve their life know what to do but just don't do what they know? In other words, they procrastinate, they self-sabotage, they become their own worst enemy. They buy into that limiting voice, that fear of doubt that questions whether they're good enough or whether they're really deserving. And that really fascinated me because it's not down to lack of intelligence or lack of desire. It's down to something else. And the best way to explain it is when we really understand that the unconscious behaviors that drive us are really the key differentiators between people that really transform and those that struggle in and out of different levels of temporary change.
So my story starts in 2018 when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. From that day, that was the first day in my life that I was blessed with the curse, but also I was able to realize that I was lost as a person, right? Stuck in those cycles of life, I was able to, look at myself and say it's time for change. I was always telling myself that brighter days were coming ahead,
What really breaks my heart is seeing people know they have to change, knowing that they don't want to settle for what they've currently got, but doing nothing about it. How long are you going to be okay not being okay? Now, Mel Robbins is famous for creating what she called the 5-second rule. She said, if you don't take action within 5 seconds of knowing that you need to take action, your chances of following through on that diminish exponentially. And you see so many people that have normalized mediocrity. Now, why has that got to stop now? Simple. We're no longer moving at the pace that history has moved at for the last even decade, with artificial intelligence now coming in, replacing even industries overnight, with people just thinking it's going to get better, or I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because they don't have the courage to be able to step forward, face their fears and say, something, I am done playing small. I am done paying rent. I am done settling for less than what I'm doing. It's time, my time. When you feel that, right, that's when life changes. And until you feel that, you're going to wake up, look in the mirror and see more of the same. Now, the inner world versus outer world balance sheet is a fascinating concept, but it really allows people to understand why they consistently struggle. Now, if we take the outer world, most people are familiar with the concept of a balance sheet. You have two sides. You have assets on one side, things like houses or stocks or money. And on the opposite side, you have liabilities, things like debts or taxes or things that you have to pay. Now, one of the issues around that is that if you have more assets than liabilities, you're positive. If you have more liabilities than assets, you're negative. Now, we get that. But what about the inner world balance sheet? You see, that also has assets and liabilities. The inner world assets would be things like your personality, your high levels of values, your level of consciousness or awareness, your ability to form good habits, your self-discipline, your positivity. But you also have liabilities, which are the opposite of those. Things like lack of discipline, lack of motivation, self-centeredness or selfishness. You could go on and on. Now, the challenge is this. If you have a negative inner world balance sheet, you are not going to be able to create a positive outer world balance sheet. Why? It's very similar to say that we have two different bank accounts, an emotional bank account and a financial bank account. And most people's financial bank account follows their emotional bank account. In other words, they have a high bank account and their emotional high is there. If they lose some money or they have a low financial bank account, their emotional bank account is also low. But it doesn't work that way. The law states outer world follows inner world. In other words, if you want to have a high physical bank balance, you need to have a high emotional bank balance first. Why? Because your emotional bank account is a leading indicator of your financial bank account, not a lagging indicator. And when people understand that, they start to realize the cycle that they've been trapped in, staring at the mirror with a frown on their face, wondering why it's not smiling back.
How do I improve from where I'm at to get to where I'm going? And more than anything else, how do I help my vision shape that reality that I want? And so in watching Peter Sage and listening to the program, I thought, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. And so I signed up for the program, and 6 months later, so many things have changed, starting with me, where I've been able to get out of my own way. I've been able to open doors that I didn't think were possible. I didn't even know what manifesting was before the program. And I can confidently say multiple times where I have manifested things that started in my head that I have turned into reality, or the universe has helped me turn into reality. And so with that, all it takes is once. You do that once and you're hooked. It's like, okay, I can do it once. And if I can do it once, I can do it again.
Now, over the last several years, especially with things like The Secret and the popularity of Law of Attraction, you've really had this polarizing effect where people are saying it's all in the head versus, well, no, it's real. So we really wanted to address that. Why? Because if something happens once, it's an incident. If it happens twice, it's a coincidence. But if it continues to happen, then it's based upon a pattern, and patterns are governed by a rule set. The fact that we're familiar with a physical rule set is one thing, but the non-physical is also governed by a rule set. And one of the things that we teach very early on in the Elite Mentorship Forum is to really understand the power of decoding that rule set. And this isn't done on some woo-woo level. We bring in some of the faculty in terms of NASA nuclear physicists, people that have spent years, millions of dollars of research that have gone into understanding the different levels of science that now underpin what we call circumstantial reality creation. And you don't have to learn everything about that in order to benefit. Now, I don't know anything about how electricity works, but I'm happy to flick a light switch and get the result. You don't need to know about the sciences behind manifestation, digital physics, the latest in noetic sciences or ontology. But we will teach you the steps so that all you simply can do is flick the light switch and get the result. And that blows people's minds. One of the things people often forget is that the mind's primary job is to justify your actions to be in alignment with your own emotional state and beliefs. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're tired and the alarm goes off, its job is to find the perfect excuse for you to press the snooze button. If you're angry in an argument, it'll find the perfect reason why you shouldn't apologize or why the other person's wrong. Now, that's another way of saying that when you get into pain or when you get into a frustrated state, as so many people are, whether that's pain in their relationship or their finances or pain in their life circumstances, the mind will justify it, and it does it by getting you to buy into some of the biggest lies that you don't realize are lies. One of the biggest ones being, I can't do that. So when people say, I can't, what they most often saying is, I can, but I won't. Now, I won't because I'm scared. I won't because I don't think I can, and therefore I don't want to fail. I can, but I won't because fill in the blank. But they don't go there. They just simply say, I can't do that, and then buy into their own limitations. That's one of the first things you want to take out at the knees. Another lie, another justification the mind comes up with is, oh, it's okay for them because. Oh, they did that because, they didn't have my parents. Oh, it was okay for them because they were lucky. They happened to be in the right place at the right time. Whatever. It's justifying your reason for settling for less than you are worth, settling for less than you deserve. And that has to stop.
Basically, out of sheer desperation, I was scrolling on YouTube and I was looking for something, anything to make me want to finish that day. I had been at a place where I would wake up in the morning and lay on the couch and literally bawl my eyes out, look at the clock and wish it was, 9:30 at night so I could go to bed and not have to live that day. And I think out of desperation, so I started watching his YouTube videos, and I liked him. I liked his voice, I liked his message. So to happen for me, I started to get better.
Another one of the big lies I see people tell themselves is around age and ability. Oh, I don't have the experience. Oh, I can't afford it. Oh, I'm too old. Oh, I'm too young. I have seen way too many people blast through those excuses. People that had zero, people that were drowning in debt, people that were in their 80s, people that were 12 years old, that made decisions to change now, and look back 6 months later with a telescope at their old life. It is so profound when you can get past your own BS, your own belief system that is holding you back. Then it is unlimited, the potential that lies within us. Because the truth is this: you have the ability to change, you have the ability to transform, you have the ability to create an entirely different life. But most people are so focused on dealing with the pain in front of them and then normalizing it, they never really get to express themselves in the way that's possible. They don't have a framework, they're too mistrusting, or they think they've got to do it on their own. They don't realize there's mentors out there that can help them. They don't realize that we're living in a time in history where you can leapfrog over people that took decades to do what you can now do in months, if you have the right formula and the right path to follow. So stop buying into your old bullshit and start recognizing that the fact that you're here means that you've already got what it takes to go to the next level.
In those 6 months, my health healed so much that my neurologist gave me the okay. He said, "You're doing well. We don't need to see you once a month anymore." Wow. My concussion therapist, she gave me the okay. My doctor actually is using me as an example at her office of what positivity can do. I was told in the beginning I would be looking at 7 to 10 years out. It's been 3 years and I'm doing phenomenal. I'm beating all of the odds. Peter taught me how to separate my physical pain from my emotional pain. I know what it's like to suffer, and I want to help others see that they can get through that too.
I'm 100% stress-free, and I used to be the most stressful guy that you could ever meet.
I would say don't miss this chance. I mean, it really is the ride of your life.
So around halfway through our journey together, and you've been witness to some pretty profound transformations that may have stirred something deep within you. Now, if these stories resonate, it may be a sign that you're also on the brink of a pivotal change. This isn't just about dissatisfaction with where you are, whether it's a feeling of stagnation or financial worries or relationships that just aren't fulfilling their potential. It's about recognizing that there's more for you, and perhaps, like many of the people you've seen today, it's time to explore what lies beyond those limiting beliefs that have held you back. This is your invitation to begin that exploration, to start uncovering the potential that's been waiting under the layers of doubt and hesitation. If you feel just a spark of readiness, a curiosity to see how far you can go, click the link below. There you'll find the first step towards a journey that could redefine what's possible in your life. And remember, our story doesn't end here. We have more incredible transformations to share, more insights that could shift your perspective, and more science that backs the path you may choose to take. So, whether you're ready now to take a bold step or you're still absorbing the possibilities, know that this journey continues. For those ready to move forward today, I'll be waiting to welcome you on the other side. So let's see where this path can lead us together. One of the greatest days in a human being's life is the day that they realize that life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience. When you can finally become okay not being liked, Not because you're not personable, not because you don't want to like people, but you're not influenced by what I call goop, or the good opinion of other people. That is a day of freedom. Now, one of the best things you can do along that journey as a tool is to learn how to ask better questions. Why? Because our brain is a loop closing machine. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you ask a question, your brain is designed to find an answer. And unfortunately, most people have trained their brain to find limiting answers. They ask lousy questions like, what's wrong with me? Well, your brain will find an answer. What's wrong is that you're not good enough. What's wrong is that your teacher said you'd never amount to anything and they were right. Whereas if you can just simply learn to ask better questions, your brain is like a faithful Labrador. If you throw a stick, it's gonna go fetch it. Stop throwing lousy sticks, because if it brings back a moldy stick and drops it on your carpet, you get what you threw for the dog. So instead, asking questions like, okay, what's great about this I've not noticed yet? If I knew it was impossible to fail, what would I actually do? Wow. Yeah, when you start opening to possibility, just that one technique can shift your quality of life day to day.
Come from a place of why not instead of why.
Well, before I tell you what the EMF is, let me tell you what it isn't. It isn't a program designed to create change. Now, why do I say that? Because there's a huge difference between change and transformation. Change is what a lot of people try to invest their time, effort, money in doing because they don't like where they are. So they buy a program, they go on a course, or they make a commitment or set a new habit to try to change. And then wonder why, they change short term and then change right back. You can change water to ice and then back again to water. Transformation is different. Transformation is where you have an entirely different shift. You go from caterpillar to butterfly. You can't go back. Transformation is what the holy grail of personal growth is about. It's not about backsliding. It's not about some temporary high. It's not about making commitments and sticking with them for a week or a month or a few months. It's about who do you become in the process of going through the Elite Mentorship Forum. Yes, you're going to learn some skills. Yes, there's some incredible tools that'll give you some powerful advantages and assets over, almost 99% of the population. But that's the icing on the cake. The real differentiator is that this is not a change program. This is a transformation program that allows you to become the best version of you. Not a version I want you to become, or your friends want you to become, or your mom or dad want you to become. No, this is you being the seed that was planted on this planet that germinates into who you were born for, so you can blossom at every single level. That is a rare program.
My name is Marijke Hoekstra. I'm from the Netherlands and I work as a coach and trainer in the area of work stress. So I kind of panicked and freaked out and thought, okay, what will I do? Because I'm a single mom of 2 children with both autism. So it was kind of a big struggle at the moment. Well, the moment I realized, okay, I've been down this road before and I feel like I keep running around in circles. Something has to change. And I've done so many things to heal myself. So I thought it's not about healing my trauma anymore because it's healed, but it's about living life to the fullest, and I have no clue how to do that.
Because we've all been there, we've all bought courses or attended workshops or read a book and got motivated, maybe even inspired to go to do change. And then wondered why 12 months later, 3 years later, we're back at the same level, or different scenery, but earning the same amount of money plus or minus, being with the same kind of relationship, even if it's with a different person. And so the outer world is changing, the scenery is changing, the decorations in our prison are changing, but we're still in a prison. And so transformation is being able to put the key in the lock and walk out of that prison into an entire new amusement park of life, to discover things that you would never have been able to discover before about yourself, about the world, about the relationships, and the depth of the joy that you can have. Being in a time in human history that our ancestors have dreamed to be alive in.
Oh God, I'm starting to cry. He mentioned peer group. And I was like, I came from a background with a lot of abuse and violence from my father. And Peter was talking about that, like, you have to surround yourself with people who lift you up. You become who you hang out with. And it touched something, a longing, I think. Thank you, Peter. And you gave me my life back. And not only mine, but also the ripple effect, because I'm an EMT now and I have people in my cohort who experience the same and who are coming to me and say, I want what you have. I can see that you're whole and I want that to show me how to, and I can bring them to your program and they will learn the same.
And I became so passionate about these transformations that I knew I had to get this out to the world. It's often said that our mission in life is to discover our gift, but our purpose in life is to give that gift to others. And my team and I constantly had students asking if we could show them how to teach this transformation to other people, either people they cared about or even just people they wanted to help, and without having to go through hundreds of hours of training to be a coach or a therapist. So we put together a certification program called the Elite Mentorship Trainer that has now enabled people to teach this easily, using a framework to create the same results that they experienced in others. It also gives them everything they need as a ready-made business that allows them to create a powerful income stream for themselves, full or part-time, doing something they love, doing something that is full of meaning while making the world a better place. And that allows us to be able to then transcend my involvement. We have hundreds of trainers around the world who are committed to really passing on this level of transformation. With that kind of impact, we can create generational change, not just change in the moment, but change that transcends and lasts lifetimes. In fact, our trainers are likely being able to change lives that haven't even been born yet. Sit with that for a moment. My mission here is to really build a large rock that we can collectively drop into the pool of humanity to create those ripples of contribution that go out and touch souls that we would never have been able to do otherwise. That's why I invite so many people to take a look inside this program so they can see for themselves the difference that they can make by being that example and invitation. There's often a tendency to look at what you perceive to be successful people and think that they just arrived. But I can promise you, before I moved into where I am now, before I attained this level of success, I've been up and down many times, but it's certainly been dark. And some of the darkest times were at the start of my journey, when I was confusing the difference between chasing success and chasing fulfillment. I was burnt out, stressed out, worn out. I was an idiot to work for. I was useless in relationships because I was too focused on the mission and the business and all of that stuff. And I was really just trying to get over the insecurities as a young man that I didn't feel good enough, and was just desperately trying to prove to the world, fighting battle after battle. The first phase really is the foundation phase, where we address a lot of the limiting beliefs that people have. How do you do that? How do you change limiting beliefs? Well, one of the first ways is to ask better questions. Let's identify what they are, especially around your relationship to money or other people or intimacy or different aspects of your own potential and self-worth. Simply just doing a belief audit is the first step on that journey. Asking yourself, is this still true for me? why do I believe this? What would have to happen for me to be able to let go of this belief? What is something more empowering that I can replace it with? All of these go through in a process that destroys and dismantles different levels of inner limitation. Another hugely powerful part of the foundational phase of EMF is emotional mastery. Now, why is emotional mastery so critical? Several reasons. Firstly, we experience life predominantly through our emotions, and most people's emotional state is not something they've ever really been taught on how to create or generate. A life lived through the lens of anxiety and depression versus joy and peace are two very different lives, but it gets much deeper than that. There was a multi-generational study conducted in the 1970s, led by top child psychologist Dr. Alan Sroufe. And the purpose of this study was to really find out the answer to a question that so many people had. And that is, how can we best predict child development when it comes to ADD, ADHD? What are the deciding factors? Is it genetics? Is it diet? What are the governing principles that allow us to preempt and treat these levels of disease in childhood? Well, what this study found floored the researchers, because they found out that the number one predictor of mental health problems in children wasn't genetics. It wasn't diet. It was the parents' inability to handle stress. In other words, the parents have zero emotional mastery. Now, why is that so? It's fairly simple when the researchers started peeling back the layers of the onion. Because when you are developing as a child and your brain is constantly adapting to its environment through mirror neurons, through neuroplasticity, and if your parents are not able to teach you how to self-soothe, if you wake up from a nightmare and there is a monster under the bed and the parent comes in and the parent is stressed because they haven't been able to handle their own issues with the credit card debt, with downsizing at work, with fighting in their relationship, you have not been taught how to calm your own self down. So what happens? You develop a brain that is constantly on edge, that is constantly looking for a fight or flight response. Now, you put that in a classroom for 40 minutes and it's interpreted as ADD. Well, guess what? It's really a survival mechanism. And that's why emotional mastery doesn't just affect us. It affects our children and it affects the environment and the people around us. The second part of the formula, phase 2 of the curriculum, really deals with momentum and finding our true north. What are the goals that really align with who we are, what we stand for, what our truth is, what lights us up? So many people are chasing false goals, either the expectations of others or they're looking at it through a fear-based lens, so they set their sights low so as not to disappoint themselves. How do we sweep that aside and get you in touch with your true potential and get you joyously taking energized action towards the future that you're starting to create? And in the third and final phase of the program is where most of the lasting transformation is built. Now, a lot of people find that surprising because they have so much transformation in the first 2 phases, but this is where we really start to get into the mechanics of rewiring your nervous system, rebuilding your psychology in a way that allows you more easy access, effortless access, natural access to emotional states that you want to feel, and make it very hard to feel emotions that you don't want to feel. And that sets you up for a lifetime of having a different experience day to day. We also teach you fast-track ways to increase your level of consciousness or conscious awareness. In addition to that, we also start to really lay out the pathway towards you being in touch with leaving a legacy that matters to you, that matters to the world. And that's why when you graduate the program, having gone through all 13 different steps across the 3 phases, people are massively transformed at a permanent level.
My personal issue was my brother died when I was 15. I struggled with his death, with leaving me since that time. one exercise, and this exercise was so amazing. It blew me away. It was the step I needed, and after that I knew why I signed up for EMF.
Just 4 short years ago, I'd lost everything. I had a major setback. I was drowning hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, 0 credit rating. And I remember getting this old van that I borrowed from my friend that no one would insure it for mechanical breakdown. And driving over to this island, you know, I got nothing in the bank apart from 1 month's rent. But I wasn't stressed. I wasn't worried. I wasn't even concerned. Why? Because I know the formula. I teach the formula, and also you have to live the formula. And so I've seen it transform my life before. I've seen it transform many other lives before. You just follow the formula.
And now it's like, now that I don't have these barriers in place, what can we do next?
Now, the formula is broken down into 13 modules that we teach, which is divided into 3 different phases. And that's all I did. The same steps that I teach in the Elite Mentorship Forum are the same steps that I follow to very quickly start generating more abundance. Now, it didn't come right away. There were many nights I was struggling to buy dog food, but I know that I had confidence in the system. And sure enough, over time, things turned around.
Oh, life's happening for me and I live in a friendly universe, so I could not have experienced this or have this impact on other people if it wasn't for you, so thank you.
One of the things that lights me up the most is when a student graduates from the Elite Mentorship Forum, because what you notice is way more than just a transformation internally. Yes, you're less stressed, you have more joy, you can handle the bends in the river of life elegantly without getting stressed or flashpoints, all that kind of stuff. But the most significant transformations also happen externally, very visible. For a start, you look at finances. Finances is not the only measure of success, but it's the one a lot of people keep track of. So when it comes to money, what stops people in a world where we've had more money now actually even created or printed in the last few years than ever existed in human history? Why are so many people struggling to take their share of that? Well, it's got nothing to do with a lack of opportunity. It's got everything to do with your consciousness around money. That the unconscious behaviors that drive us are really the key differentiators between people that really transform and those that struggle in and out of different levels of temporary change. So imagine this. Your conscious mind is like an ant. It's hardworking, it's focused, it's directed, it makes plans. And a lot of people tell their ants to walk north towards their goals. And you've got your vision board, you've got your affirmations, you've got your positive thinking, and you're offset to try to go and achieve what it is that you want. The challenge is most people's conscious mind, their ant, is walking north over the back of a very large elephant, their unconscious, that is marching south. And no amount of ant-based motivation or affirmations is going to change that. So in the moment we do things that we think are positive to go towards our goals, but unconsciously we've got all of this self-sabotage going on because our ant and our elephant are not aligned. How do you align that? How do you really unroot those limiting beliefs? How do you go back and find out, first of all, where they come from, which for most people is usually in childhood. For example, you could be a great person, but if you have a force field against the opposite sex, if you are nervous or shy or arrogant or ego-driven, then that's going to keep you out of relationships. It's not about who you are inside, it's about how you show up.
So hi, we're Rod and Simone. We're from Holland, and we started this EMF journey like 1.5 years ago. Without a plan, we came from Holland, sold everything.
And I needed definitely help for him, because he was doing some stuff maybe that would have affected his entire life.
What often comes up when people first look at joining the Elite Mentorship Forum is that the self-doubt, the self-talk that says, oh, you know, will it work for me? And part of that is linked to somebody being comfortable, even unconsciously, with where they're currently at, to a point where they're afraid of change.
So I was looking on the internet, so who is that guy? And she was like, you know, I'm going my way, you're going your way, you sort it out. And I believe 2 weeks later, I stole her computer and sat under a tree and used her password and, you know, go through the stuff.
But a large part is also that people have so been disappointed in the past with attempts or programs or commitments that they've made in good faith, but really just haven't come to fruition. So there's that hesitancy. It's like, oh, well, is this going to be worth the time or the investment, or is this going to work for me? And, you know, I've seen all these success stories, but, you know, my story is different.
And then I was sure that, no, this was my path to walk, because now what he did actually, he gave it words. He made it understandable, but he also made me step in a deeper layer of life, and everything I did by intuition became now more understandable. So yeah, then we were like, let's do this.
And I've seen everybody from all different walks of life. You've seen so many people just on this particular documentary, and this is a tip of the iceberg, that come from backgrounds that you wouldn't want to swap, circumstances you'd be grateful not to have, all of whom came through and had massive transformation on the other side. So, you know, will it work for me? It can't not work for you. Nobody is so special that this particular program isn't going to give you huge and massive benefit.
And if you feel like you're the only alien in the world, you're not. There are more like you.
You know, the whole package, we started EMF, and we surely wanted to be trainers and learn how to bring this to the outside world and help other people to understand that there is always a second option in life.
Yeah.
So the moment you get stuck, how bad it is, there's always a way out. And
start with yourself. Look within. The answers are not out there. They're absolutely within you. When you realize that you are enough, you realize you've got everything within you. And when you realize that you're a creator of your own life, you can absolutely create whatever magic you want to.
It doesn't work to convince your husband or your partner. They have to make their own choices. So if you shine and just love the person, who the person is at the moment, that's the best you can do. And some people choose not in life to make the same step, and that's okay.
It's actually like what we did. I mean, you started the EMF, and I was looking over the fence like, what is she doing, you know?
Yes.
But because of something that changed in her, and I picked it up, I had to do it also.
The curriculum was a big part, but it wasn't just that, because somebody else could deliver the same curriculum, it wouldn't have the same effect. It was just a magic formula. You know, Peter, the curriculum, how he delivered it. I think the way he speaks is very much my language. You know, I can speak a lot in metaphors, using stories, analogy. He was exactly the same.
I would certainly say, hop on the bus and take this ride. You know, the only thing you need basically is an open mind. I mean, either you're a scientific person or a teacher or whatever your background is, open up and just step in and ask your questions and be critical about it, you know? Do your own search.
The reality is, if you hang around with 9 recreational drug users, chances are you're going to become the 10th. If you hang around with 9 positive, motivated people who look at life through the lens of how we can, not why we can't, that have a high money consciousness, a prosperity mindset, rather than a scarcity or a lack mindset, then you're going to become the 10th. It's called the law of conformity. Now, imagine having access to thousands of people as a family, as a peer group that have all gone through a high level of transformational change that allows them to be that peer for you, that you can look up to, that you can hang around with, that's going to have a positive impact. Now the law of conformity is working for you rather than against you. Why? Because so many people don't have a peer group. They have a fear group, or worse, they have a beer group. And what happens? Well, I can't change my family because they're negative because of this. Well, love your family, choose your friends. And most people don't proactively do that, or they just don't have a high quality group of people with which to associate with until now. Wow, first of all, I want to honor you for the time you've taken to invest in yourself while watching this movie. You've made it to the very end of this documentary, and I want you to pause for a moment and just ask yourself one last question. You've seen the stories, you've heard some of the science behind the incredible world of the Elite Mentorship Forum. You've felt the transformations, you've witnessed the inarguable evidence and proof of what happens when you simply decide to apply this formula in your life. You've also seen there is a clear old way that people are stuck in all over the world. An old way to try to change, an old way to try to generate wealth, an old way to search for inner peace, and an old way of living more of the same day every day. And we also showed you a new way, a simpler way, a way rooted in science, not guesswork, on how to create the life that you want, and one that has now been proven by thousands of students just like you who simply took the first step and asked themselves a better question, a defining question, and that is this. What would be possible if instead of trying to control or master my environment, I focused on mastering myself? Your answer to that question determines where you go from here. And as a thank you for investing the time in being with us on this journey today, I want to make that choice as easy as possible for you and give you something back, a free resource, a way where you can help take the first step to discovering your own limitations and get something valuable back, some feedback and clarity on how to finally let go of them. And you can start that journey right now by clicking the button below. And while there's no cost to you for doing this, it's a gift from me, there is definitely a price for not doing it. So I'm going to invite you now to step into that new way, just like so many of the success stories you've seen over the last hour, because you can have the same thing. Now, there's a lot of people out there who just choose to stay stuck. Don't be one of them. Click the button below to begin the most exciting journey of your lifetime, the journey where you rise into the best version of yourself. And I'll see you on the other side.
This is an opportunity for you to dive deep internally and become the best version of you, and then spread that through any area of your life that you're willing to commit to.
You're not going to grow if you don't get out of your comfort zone.
You're never too old to learn something new.
That you don't need to feel sad and alone every day. You don't need to wake up and cry every day.
There's a reason why we are in front of you, or why this is in front of you at the time that it is.
He had everything already wrapped up in a nice little understandable package that you could just follow step by step.
You invest in your house, in your apartment, to have a beautiful place to stay in. But then you don't invest in the only place you stay in all your life, that is your mind.